Hey guys, so real quick, I'm going to show you how to make a line graph using Google Sheets. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to input your data. So normally we have the date here, and we will put the data from our data collection here. So on this part, I put like what it was. So were we in baseline? Were we doing flashcards in writing, maintenance, that sort of thing. So here's my data. When I go to create a graph, I am not going to put this part in here. That will be added in manually later. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight my data points, and I'm going to insert a chart. And this is what it looks like. So will this chart work? Yes, this chart is sufficient. This line graph does the job. Personal preference and based off of like what I've learned, for visual appearance reasons, it is best to have a few changes. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put in some data points. We're going to make those a little smaller. So I usually use about 2, or you can change it here and do 4, whatever size it is that you want. I always change the color to black. Let's see, I can't tell what it looks like. Those are a little too big, like I said. I don't know why it's doing that. Okay, there we go. So we also want to we're going to go to chart and access titles. Our title is going to be reading sight words. And we want it to go in the middle, and we want to do it in black. So we want all of our writing to be in black. So the next part that we're going to do is we're going to click on the horizontal axis, and we're going to change it to black, and we're going to do treat label as text. This creates where every date is now listed. The next part we're going to do, so on this particular student, our goal for sight words was 30. So I'm going to put our minimum is 0 and our maximum is 30. This one automatically switched to 30, but there are some cases where maybe our maximum was 50 and we never got there. So we're going to put a 50 to show that that's our max. But 30 is our max for this one, so I'm going to put 30. The next part we're going to do is we're going to change this. So this, we always want to, our axis, we want to put number of sight words. And we always want to make sure it's black. And we want this to be black. This just kind of helps with some of the visual stuff, just to make it like look better and to be more appealing to the person you're showing it to and make it look more clean and professional. So the next part is kind of a tricky part in Sheets, but it can be done. So you guys saw in my example that I had the phase lines and the phase labels. So the way that we create those is we go to insert drawing. So in here we will do our line. Whoops. We will just draw a line. And we do save and close. And then we move the line. So let's look over here. Baseline was the 3rd, and the 6th. So we want to show that the 3rd and the 6th is when our baseline sessions occurred. So we put this phase change line is what it's called, because the phase of the intervention changes when you go from baseline to flashcards to maintenance, that sort of thing. So we would insert another one. And a way that we can do kind of a shortcut is we can copy. Let's see if it'll let me. Yep, copy. And then we're going to insert a new drawing. Just like this. And so this one goes for flashcards. So flashcard happened the 8th through the 5th, just like that. Okay, so we have one more of those to do. So we're going to click on it, copy. Google Sheets makes it harder just because you have to go through the drawing part. If you were using Excel, you could just draw your line. You would not have to go through these hoops. Okay, so the next one goes at 5:16 because that's when we switched again. So right here, 5:16 is the last session that we did that was flashcards and writing. The next one was our maintenance session. So, using my example that we had before, we have our data points, we have our dates, our axes labeled, our title, goodness. And so the last thing we need is we need to label our phases. So the way we do this is kind of the same way with the drawing. We're going to insert, and we're going to say baseline. And you have to do each of these separately. In most circumstances, you're only going to be labeling your baseline and your intervention. Most of the time in a school setting, you are not going to have all of these things. But if you do, I want you to know how to get it done. So we've got our baseline labeled. We're going to copy and paste kind of like what we did last time to make sure that it's all formatted the same. Insert drawing. This next one is flashcards. Save and close. And then we're going to put our flashcards right up here. You can shrink them down a little bit if you need to, whatever looks best. Remember, the whole point of a graph is to show our data to other people and to view it for ourselves so that we can make data-driven decisions. So you want to make sure that the graph is visually appealing. So this is the next phase of the strategy that we were doing with the student. Flashcards plus writing, and then one more. Was maintenance. Whoops, I spelled it wrong. That's okay. Just like that. Let's pretend I spelled that right. So the next thing that you can do, this is not mandatory obviously, but on my other ones, I made my data points square. It just gives it a cleaner, more crisp look. So by looking at this graph, you would not have to have any data to be in like the numbers over here to be able to see, like if you just showed someone this graph and you said, on the vertical axes, we have the number of sight words. On the horizontal axes, we have the date that we tested the student. And we have our baseline, our intervention step 1, intervention step 2, and maintenance data. So anyone who's looking at this graph can see that the number of sight words increased after you did the flashcards plus the writing. And you can also see that the student was able to maintain it for a month later. So these graphs show us important data that we need to see without actually having to really use words. Like you don't have to say anything in order for someone to be able to understand your intervention and understand what happened. Yes, you may have to explain how you did the intervention, that sort of thing, but to show the results of your intervention, you can use a graph. And many times in schools, you can use them in IEPs, you can use them at meetings. You know, we've talked about all of that, but I just wanted to show you guys how exactly to set it up using your data. So the first step is to just put the data in there, the date, the reading, and then highlight it and go from there. Thanks, guys.